Good evening children and welcome to Yup Master. We're beginning with the foundation courses and today we're going to be starting with a brand new chapter and that is the chapter of the human excretory system. So are you all ready to begin with this interesting chapter? And do remember when we're talking about the excretory system, which part of the body are we speaking about? None other than our kidneys. Okay, so let's look into that. First of all, we remember just like what we spoke about right now, that if I'm talking about our human excretory system, then we are talking about not only about our kidneys, but also about the urinary bladder and all about how urine is going to be formed. So ahead when we study this chapter, we are also going to study in detail the whole process of urine formation. So before we head into that, let us get a brief insight on what exactly the excretory system is made up of, what are the organs involved, and how do the structures look like. Okay, now to begin with, I'd like you to know that the basic and exact placement of this human excretory system. The human excretory system is placed actually in the abdomen, and that too always remember it is placed behind the digestive system. Okay, it is placed exactly behind digestive system. So from front if you are looking, first comes the digestive system and then behind that comes the excretory system. All right, so let's begin with that. Now first, when we talk about this excretory system, look at these organs which are there here, involved here. Okay, first of all, the excretory system, it is comprising of first a pair of kidneys. Okay, after this it comprises of a pair of ureters. Okay, a pair of kidneys, then comes a pair of ureters. After this there is a median placed, median means that it is in the center, so there is a median placed urinary bladder. Then there is a median small thin tube and that small thin tube is called as the urethra. Alright, so these are the basic most important parts and components of this excretory system. There is a pair of kidneys, okay, so means that there is going to be one left kidney and then there is going to be one right kidney. Now when I am talking about these kidneys here, how do I label as to which kidney is the left kidney and which kidney is the right kidney? How am I going to label that? Well, how do we do this? Let's see first. Whenever we're talking about the kidneys, okay, or whenever we're talking about rather any part of the human body, what we see is that there is going to be a labeling that we have to do. It has to be done in an opposite manner. Why is that? Let me tell you this. We have to imagine ourselves, okay, means yes, you yourself, imagine yourself to be the doctor and imagine this excretory system right here to be the excretory system of a patient in front of you. Okay, so you being the doctor are looking at that excretory system on your screen and that is the excretory system of a patient in front of you. Now according to the patient, this is which kidney? Not according to you, according to the patient. Which kidney is this one over here? Isn't this his right kidney? Again remember, I am not saying according to you, I am talking according to your patient. This here is his right kidney and this over here is his left kidney. And because in zoology we are always considering the body part being a part of that person or the person in front of you, that is why whenever we're going to be labeling, we will be labeling in an opposite manner. All right, so we see here the excretory system. What exactly are the components of it? There is a pair of kidneys, then there is a pair of ureters. Remember the name ureter. All right, third comes a single median placed urinary bladder and fourth comes the lower one, a median small tube which is called as the urethra. All right, remember these two words are different, ureters and then urethra. Ureters are the tubes and urethra is that single one opening. All right, okay, then we also find here that there is the presence of the aorta. Remember, the aorta is the largest artery in our body. Okay, aorta is the largest artery and The aorta has divisions, all right. These divisions of the aorta are what you find over here. Let me just label it with, let's color it with another pen, color. So you see here, this is a division. So it is a branch of the aorta. May I call the branch of an aorta as an artery? And because that artery is going towards the kidney, may I call that as the renal artery? Yes. So first of all, the thickest one, the largest one, that is the aorta. From the aorta, we have the division here, and the division here is called as the renal artery. Do you get this? All right. Now, okay, so our live chat going on. Teju, no, this is not a recorded lecture. You can post any doubts you have in between. All right. So this is the aorta, and then you have a renal artery here. Now, this renal artery is going to be the one which is taking oxygen, taking blood to the kidneys. Did you get this? So we have here the aorta dividing into a renal artery. Then along with the aorta, do you see that blue colored blood vessel? Yes, that blue colored blood vessel that you have here is none other than the inferior vena cava. The inferior vena cava is going to be supplied with blood, and who is taking blood towards the inferior vena cava? Let's draw that here. That is this over here, and this over here is called as, this is called as the renal vein. All right, it's called as the renal vein. So you have the two different renal artery, you have the renal vein, and then you have the aorta, and then you have the inferior vena cava. So again, just demarcating these structures, remember the blood structures over here, okay, the vascular structures over here. First, we have this structure here as the aorta. After that, this structure over here as the renal artery. Then this structure here is the renal vein, and then this structure here is the inferior vena cava. That is what's going to take all the deoxygenated blood from the kidney and take it towards the heart. All right. Okay, so that was about the blood vessels, okay, around the kidneys, near the kidneys. Next, let's see over here, where exactly are the kidneys present in our body? So if you know that our whole system over here, there are two parts to it. Rather, we can say that there are two cavities. One on top is the thoracic cavity, and below the thoracic cavity is the abdominal cavity. So now I would like you to tell me, are the kidneys present in the thorax region, or are they present in the abdomen region? Okay, where are they present? In the thoracic cavity, or are they present in the abdominal cavity? The kidneys are seen to be present in the abdominal cavity. Okay, not only in the abdominal cavity, we also need to know that the kidneys are placed, or rather they are attached to the posterior. Posterior means from behind. They are attached to the posterior body wall. Okay, so as you see in this diagram here, very clearly it's seen, kidneys are actually placed behind the digestive system, attached to the posterior body wall. All right. Now, seeing the size and shape of a kidney, we see that they are dark red and they are bean shaped structures. All right. So here they are. Also, you can see on top of the kidneys, can you see the presence of these glands here? Okay, we'll highlight them. These are these glands present here. These glands, because they are present on top of the kidneys. If they are on top of the kidneys, may I say that they are near the kidneys, or may I say that they are adjacent to the kidneys? So if they are adjacent to the kidneys, and for kidneys we basically use the term renal, right? So renal word is used when we talk about kidneys. So these are glands which are placed near the renals, hence we call these glands as the adrenal glands. All right. Now on the kidneys, these adrenal glands are going to be secreting a very important hormone, and that hormone is called as adrenaline. Okay, it is this hormone adrenaline which is basically used for or rather this is what your body uses whenever you are in a panic mode, whenever you are scared of something. You know how your body starts, your heartbeat starts increasing, your respiration starts increasing. It's all because of a hormone which is coming out of these glands, and these are located just adjacent to the kidneys. All right. So that's all about the adrenal glands right now. Let's bring our focus back to our kidneys. So these are dark red and they are bean shaped organs. All right. We also see that talking about when we see it from the dorsal side, or rather if I'm saying dorsal, remember dorsal always means back side. Okay. So viewing the kidneys from the back side, we see that the kidneys are actually protected. And how is the kidney protected? With the help of ribs. Now, if you know that ribs are of 12, how many are there? There are 12 pairs. There are 12 pairs of ribs. Out of the 12 pairs, the 11th and the 12th ribs are the ones which are basically protecting the kidneys. Okay. So now, Teju, yes, you may see this video afterwards, but stay tuned here. All right. And yeah, it will be uploaded on our YupMaster Foundation channel. So do subscribe there, and if you hit the bell icon, you'll get a notification too. All right. So we see here that the kidneys are actually going to be protected by the 11th and the 12th pairs of ribs here. Okay. So from the dorsal side or back side, they are protected by 11th and 12th pairs. Now here we also see kidneys are located or present on either sides of the vertebral column. So this is the vertebral column and the kidneys are present on either side. Okay, one kidney on one side and the other one on the other side. Which is the rib which is protecting it? It is the 11th and the 12th ribs which are protecting these kidneys. Okay. Also, we see that the kidneys, where are they starting exactly? Okay. Now, when we talk about the kidney positioning, exact positioning, we can tell this according to which vertebrae are they aligned with. Okay. So, we see here how many vertebrae are there. We all know that there are total 33 vertebrae. Okay. Now, out of these 33 vertebrae, there are 5 different types of vertebrae. We will study this when we do the chapter of locomotion, but right now, just to introduce it to you, the different types of vertebrae would start with the ones present in the neck region. The vertebrae in the neck region are called as the cervical vertebrae. All right, cervical. How do you spell that as? Cervical. Then you have another set that's called as the thoracic. Okay. Now, if you see this word thoracic, it basically means the thorax. So, these are those vertebrae which are present in your thoracic region. All right. Then comes the lower back, which we're going to be calling that as the lumbar vertebrae. So, that is the lumbar vertebrae. After that would come the cervical, the thoracic, the lumbar, the sacral, and lastly, the coccygeal. All right. So, we have these 5 different types of vertebrae present in our body, out of which all of them put together are forming a total of 33 vertebrae. Now, if you see the count of these vertebrae, there are 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, and then 4 coccygeal. Okay. So, you have all of these. How is it? It is 7, 12, 5, 5, 4. That's how you're going to remember it. Okay. How are you going to remember it? 7, 12, 5, 5, 4. Now, talking about the placement of the kidneys, they are placed from the 12th thoracic, means over here, the last thoracic, and it is going to range all the way up till the 3rd lumbar. Okay. So, we see here 12th thoracic to 3rd lumbar vertebrae. Alright. Let's continue ahead. When we talk about the kidneys, remember over here, which is the right one, which is the left one? Zoology. So, labelings are always going to be opposite. Alright. So, we see here that this is the right kidney and this over here is the left kidney. Alright. So, let's start here. We see here that if you can see in the diagram, this kidney is placed lower than the left kidney. The right kidney is lower than the left one. Why is that? Just imagine. If you're talking about your body, what is going to be present above that right kidney, which is heavy enough to push that kidney downwards? Isn't there going to be some sort of substance present there? Yes, it's going to be none other than the liver. So this liver is such a huge and such a bulky organ that it actually has the potential to push down that kidney. The kidney is going to be pushed down, and hence whenever you remember one thing, whenever you're going to be drawing the excretory system, you will always make sure that the right kidney that you're drawing is always placed at least one or two of your notebook lines below the left kidney. Why? Because you want to show that you know that there is a liver present on it. All right. Okay. Now let's continue ahead. When we see here that as we saw a little while back, the right kidney is lower than the left kidney, but then we also see that the left kidney is slightly behind than the right kidney. And why is that? Because in the front of the left kidney, there is a huge organ which is going to be filled up every time you fill your stomach, and that is none other than the presence of the stomach on top of that kidney. So because of the presence of the stomach there, it is behind the right kidney. All right. Next we see here the length of the kidney. When we talk about the length of the kidney is 10 centimeters. Then we see the width of the kidney is 5 centimeters. And then when you talk about the thickness of the kidney, it is 4 centimeters. So talking in terms of length, width and thickness, the kidney becomes, it is 10, 5 and 4. Remember, it is all seen in centimeters. So basically when you see it, it is quite a small organ, not as large as you might imagine it to be. All right. Now, next when we see here, how much is the weight of the kidney? Now, let me tell you one thing. Weight of kidneys is actually different in males and different in females. Okay. So there is a basic reason for this. In fact, if you see all the other parts of our body also, many of the other, when you talk about blood counts and when you talk about RBC count, WBC count, in all what ways? In the male body, it is always going to be of a larger count as compared to that of a female body. Okay. Because basically when you differentiate the proportions of them, the male body is basically having a larger surface area to be covered. So how much is the weight of the kidney in males? In males it is 150 grams and in females it is 135 grams. All right. So this is the basic difference between a male and a female size of the kidneys. All right. Okay. So are you all paying attention? All right. Can't see other sub videos. All right. Okay. So let's pay attention here. Everyone focus here. Kidneys, when you see about one kidney, can you see this inner margin over here? Okay, this margin that you're seeing here. Can you see that through this margin, you can see these arteries coming in. These are the renal artery coming in. You can also see that renal vein going outwards. Okay. So all these things, all this communication is happening through this inner concave margin. And through that margin, since everything is coming in and going out, that concave margin is going to be called as hilus, or it can be called as hilum. So because it is an important structure where everything comes in and goes out, that's why we've given it a name, and we've given it the name of hilus, or we may also call it as hilum. All right. So inner concave margin. Now, we also see, as I told you a little while back, that the kidneys are attached to the posterior body wall. Okay. Now, when they are attached to the posterior body wall, in front of them is the whole digestive system. Okay. Now, always remember that each and every organ from our digestive system, they are actually covered in a whole layer, and that layer is called as peritoneum. Okay. The whole digestive system is covered in a layer, and what is that layer called as? It's called as peritoneum. So basically, if you take an anterior, like if you view the human body from the front, okay, you stand in front and you view the human body. When you want to start from innermost part, the first thing, the innermost part that you have is the excretory system. Then you have the digestive system. But remember, I told you, around the digestive system, there is a covering. And what was that covering called as? The covering was called as the peritoneum. So this is the back end of the peritoneum. Inside the peritoneum is the digestive system. And again, on the digestive system is the other covering, that is peritoneum. So peritoneum is basically all around the digestive system. But when we talk about the kidneys, can I say that the kidneys are placed behind the peritoneum? And because they are placed behind the peritoneum, These kidneys may be called as retroperitoneal, that is behind the peritoneum, because retro basically means behind. Okay, what is peritoneum? Peritoneum is nothing but epithelium. Okay, epithelium is a type of tissue and that's what peritoneum is made up of. All right, now this peritoneum we see the kidneys are covering it, or rather the peritoneum is covering the kidneys, but not from the back side. Peritoneum only is covering the kidneys from the anterior part. Okay, back side is attached to the dorsal body wall. All right, also when we see ahead, what exactly are the functions of kidneys and what does the kidney, what role does it play in our body? Well, it doesn't only do the work of producing urine. Kidneys do a lot of work too. All right, so let's come to the functions of kidneys. First of all, they help in maintaining homeostasis. Okay, now when we talk about homeostasis basically means that it is going to be helping in maintaining a steady state. All right, so we have one hi ma'am, this is Bhavya. Hi Bhavya. So will the weight of the kidneys increase, will the weight of the kidney increases age wisely? Well, yeah, definitely it would, but then that's why whenever we're mentioning the weight of any organ, that's why we're always talking about an average human adult. I'm not considering the weight of any organ in a child or in an infant. All right. Okay, so coming back to our kidney functions, it helps in maintaining homeostasis. Okay, what is homeostasis? Homeostasis means an internal steady state. Okay, so when I'm saying internal steady state, I am meaning steady state of everything. I mean steady state of salt and water balance. I mean a steady state of temperature regulation. I mean a steady state of the BP being normal. So everything needs to be at a normal value. That is called as homeostasis. So kidneys are going to be helping in maintaining this homeostasis. All right. Also, kidneys help in excretion. What do you mean by the word excretion? Excretion basically means to throw out something. And throwing out what? Throwing out nitrogenous waste products. Tell me, which are the nitrogenous waste products that you know? Yes, any inputs from your end? Which are the nitrogenous waste products that you are aware of? Can I say that they may be either of these? Okay, I'll write them down. I'd like you to write them in the chat box. Which are the nitrogenous waste products? They could be ammonia, right? They could be urea. Okay, do you know the third one? Yes, the third one could be uric acid. All right, so kidneys will help in excretion of these nitrogenous waste products like ammonia, urea or uric acid too. Also, if at all you happen to consume any excess of drugs, what type of drugs am I talking about? I'm talking about medicines. Okay, don't run your brains too much. So I'm talking about excess of drugs, or if at all any toxic products have entered into your body, then also our body does manage to remove this through the urine. Okay, also the kidneys are helping in maintaining an osmoregulation. What is osmoregulation? Osmoregulation means a balance between the salt and the water. All right, excellent. Ammonia, all right, NH3, good job. So osmoregulation is maintaining a balance between salt and water. Okay, that helps, that's what the kidney helps in. All right, next, kidneys also are performing a function which you may have never heard of, and that is it helps in the synthesis of vitamin D and also RBCs. How RBCs? Do you know RBCs are produced in the bone marrow? But for the bone marrow to get a green signal so that it can start producing RBCs, the kidney is going to give a hormone there. Okay, let me get that again. So kidney is going to be producing or secreting a hormone. From the kidney, that hormone will go to the red bone marrow and tell that red bone marrow to start secreting or start producing RBCs. Okay, so without a signal, a green signal coming from the kidney, the bone marrow will not be able to produce RBCs. And what is the name of that hormone coming from the kidney? That hormone is called as erythro. Why erythro? Because erythro means red, and because it is forming the red blood cells, it's called as erythropoietin. Okay, it's called as erythropoietin. Erythro means red and poietin means Poiesis. Poiesis means formation. So it is helping in the formation of RBCs by secreting this hormone, which is called as erythropoietin. And tell me, where does the erythropoietin go? Erythropoietin is going to be taken from kidneys to the, tell me the answer in the chat box if you know it. From kidneys, it's going to be taken, yes, to the bone marrow. Okay, for the production of RBCs. Okay. Next, we're going to be also seeing that kidneys are also helping in regulation of blood pressure. Ahead in the chapter, we will learn how kidneys help in, if at all your BP goes high, kidneys are going to be helping in bringing them to normal. If at all for a certain reason your BP goes low, then also the kidneys are going to be helping in bringing that back to normal. So kidney does help in regulation, keeping the blood pressure normal. Okay. So these were all the functions of kidneys. Moving on to the next organ in our excretory system, that organ or that part of the excretory system is called as the ureters. Basically understand, ureters are just tubes. There is not any function that's happening in the level of the ureter for formation of urine. Always remember, the complete urine is formed right at the level of the kidneys. Okay, there is nothing beyond the kidneys for urine formation. Whatever is happening beyond the kidneys, it is just helping that urine that's formed come to the outside. Okay, there's nothing beyond that. So ureters, basically these are ranging, they start from the hilus. What is the hilus? Remember that inner margin over here, this was the hilus. So the ureters start from hilus and they're going to go all the way down and they go down to the urinary bladder. So ureters are ranging from hilus till the urinary bladder. Talking about the length of the ureters, well, these are around 40 centimeters in length. Remember that too in an average human adult, and they are paired, alright, one for the left side, one for the right side. The upper part of that ureter, can you see this upper part? Okay, over here you can see this part here. This is a dilated part. Okay, you can see how the rest of the ureter is very thin, but that upper part is dilated. And that dilated part is going to be called as the renal pelvis. Don't forget this thing, that whenever we talk about renal pelvis, this pelvis region over here, okay, I'll erase everything. This pelvis region over here, that region is a part of the ureters, and that region is going to clearly be called as the renal pelvis. All right. So we also see that it's starting from there and it goes all the way down and it enters into the urinary bladder. The ureters are entering into the bladder, but when they enter into the bladder, they are actually going to be entering obliquely, okay, into the bladder, obliquely. So why obliquely? Just imagine that. So imagine that there's going to be urine being filled, okay. So urine is coming down, urine is being filled in the bladder. Now, if this bladder has so much urine and let's say you're not able to visit the washroom very soon, then there's going to be chances that maybe there might be backflow of urine. Would you want that urine which has been filled in the bladder to go backflow and go all the way up into the kidneys back again? No, you wouldn't. That's why the ureters have to be entering into the bladder in a diagonal manner. So if at all it enters diagonally, then there would be no backflow, and if at all there is backflow, then the backflow would just be restricted like this. There would not be backflow going in an upward direction because that would be naturally against gravity. So that wouldn't happen at all. If at all there is backflow, only this much and it would fall back down. So that's why the ureters enter into the bladder in an oblique manner. I hope you got that clear. So the basic function of the ureters are that they do the work of carrying urine from the kidneys to the bladder. But remember one thing, the urine that's going to be falling from kidney to the bladder is not falling down by gravity. What is it that's taking that urine down, helping it to be collected in the bladder? It is the alternate contractions and relaxations. And remember one thing, in a tubular organ, whenever you have alternate contractions and relaxations happening, this is going to be called as peristalsis. Okay, so alternate contractions and relaxations in a tubular organ is called as peristalsis. So basically, whenever urine is being made in the kidneys, it is traveling down and entering into that urinary bladder by a process which is going to be called as peristalsis. Okay. Now let's see ahead. After the kidneys, we moved on towards the ureters. Now let's head on towards the urinary bladder. Now, before we actually start with the urinary bladder, my question to you is that how much of urine should be filled in the bladder, just so that you get a question or you get the indication that now you need to go and empty your urine, or how much urine actually has to be filled in that bladder for you to get that urge for passing out urine. How much do you think? Let me give you a hint. I'll tell you that the bladder capacity of a human being, of an average human adult, is around 1 liter. Okay, so if our bladder capacity of a human adult is 1 liter, then how much of urine do you think has to be filled in that bladder in order for you to get an urge that you need to go and evacuate the urine? Do you think it would be around 700? Do you think it would be around 800, or maybe 600? Any guesses? Put them in the chat box if you've got any guesses here. Well, to tell you the truth, in order for your mind to understand that you need to go and evacuate out urine, the bladder needs to be filled only with 350 milliliters of urine. So, with only 350 milliliters of urine, you actually get the urge of evacuating out your urine. And because you're not actually able to do so at that given point of time, you may have to be waiting for a little while. That's why you have that leverage to wait, and ultimately you can wait up to a maximum ml of around 450. That's maximum, and then you'd have to rush to the bathroom. All right. Now we see here that this urinary bladder, where is it placed? It's placed in the pelvic cavity, okay? And also it is placed behind the hip bone, and the joint of the hip bone over here is called as the pubic symphysis. So the urinary bladder is placed behind this pubic symphysis joint, all right? Next, when we talk about the urinary bladder, it is a hollow organ, it is a muscular organ, and it is an inverted pear-shaped organ too. Because it is an inverted pear-shaped organ, we may call this as a piriform shape, alright? We may call it as piriform shaped organ. It's muscular, as I told you, and the name of the muscle is a very important point for your MCQs. Urinary bladder, the muscle over there, it's called as the detrusor muscle, alright? It's hollow, and the wall over here is made up of a detrusor muscle. Why is it called as detrusor? Because detrusor, basically the word means to throw out. And what is the function of this urinary bladder? The function basically is to throw out urine. And that's why only when we're talking about the urinary bladder, the wall is called as having a detrusor muscle. Don't forget this name over here of detrusor. Alright. Alright, does the total excretory process take place only in the kidneys? Well, yes, excretion is happening at the level of the kidneys only. What exactly is the byproduct of excretion? Excretion is going to be resulting in urine formation. And as I told you just a little while back, that urine formation is completely taking place at the level of the kidneys. Everything besides, or everything after the kidneys, I'm talking about the ureters, the urinary bladder, the urethra, these are just behaving as passageways so that the urine that's made in the kidney can be taken and carried to the outside. But there are no processes, there is no functionings happening inside there. Once the kidneys have made the urine, the process of excretion is completed there. Only that now that urine that's been formed has to be carried outwards. Okay, I hope that solves your doubt here. Then next we see after the detrusor muscle, which we just spoke about, the main function of this urinary bladder is just to store urine. Remember, I told you that the bladder's capacity is around 1 liter, but not actually possible. Alright, so this capacity, then why is it called as having a 1 liter capacity? If you take that bladder out of the human body and you want to fill in water, then you're actually going to be able to fill in 1 liter of water into that bladder. But technically, is this possible when you're actually in your daily activities? Not at all. Just think about it. Did you ever go to the washroom and pee out one liter of urine? That's not possible, is it? Alright, so now after the urinary bladder, After this, we're going to be talking about the urethra. Now, what exactly is this urethra? Let me tell you one thing. Urethra is the final point after which that urine is going to be passed to the outwards. Okay. Now, this urethra is going to be of a different length for males and a different length for females. Okay. Now, in this diagram, okay, if this diagram is not really making sense to you, let me just tell you. This here, these are the ureters. Okay, these are the ureters. Can you see how they are opening in an oblique manner? So what are they opening into? They are opening into this organ here, and what organ is this? This is none other than the bladder. Okay, so this is the urinary bladder. Now, do you remember the name of that muscle that was there? Wasn't it called as the, tell me if you remember the name of the muscle. How fast can you reply to me what was the name of the muscle on my chat box? Okay, well, I was waiting for it. It is called as the detrusor. Check the spelling. It's called as the detrusor muscle. Okay, so the muscle which is placed in that urinary bladder was called as the detrusor muscle. Now, below the urinary bladder, this part is what I'm talking about. This is the part which we're going to be calling as the urethra. Okay, this is the urethra. So basically, all of that urine which is going to be filled inside the bladder is going to be coming out of the bladder through this urethra. Okay, so let's see the points from the urethra. It is the one which is going to be carrying the urine from urinary bladder and taking it outside. All right, in males we see that it is longer than in females, because in males it has to pass through the whole copulatory or the mating organ, and that's why it is longer in males. And in males that urethra is around 20 centimeters, whereas in females it is around 4 centimeters only. Okay, why is this? Because the length of the male urethra has to pass through the male mating organ, whereas in females it's just a small canal that it has to pass through. All right, next, also when we talk about the urethra, okay, we see that there are two sphincters to this. Okay, there is an internal sphincter, as you can see over here. Can I mark this in blue? This is the internal sphincter here, and then there is an external sphincter over here. Okay, so basically there are two sphincters. Now, what is a sphincter? Sphincter is basically just a circular, it is a circular band of muscles. Okay, so this is a circular band of muscles. Now, when we talk about these sphincters, the sphincters are actually going to do different functions. Different sphincters doing different functions. Out of these, I'll tell you, there is one sphincter which is voluntary, and there is one sphincter which is involuntary. Now, I'd like you to guess which sphincter of these two are voluntary and which one is involuntary. Okay, which one is going to be under your control, and which one is absolutely not in your control. Can you have a guess over there? So basically, when we see here, what do you think that the internal sphincter will be? Do you think the internal sphincter will be voluntary, or do you think the internal sphincter would be involuntary? Yes, one is voluntary, one is involuntary. Yes, this internal one is the one which is going to be involuntary. Okay, and the external sphincter is the one which is going to be voluntary. So just imagine, if at all it was the opposite way, and if at all the external sphincter was involuntary, then imagine wherever you would go, you wouldn't have a control over your passing of urine, and you would just pass it on whenever you would feel like passing urine. So thank God that the external sphincters here are voluntary, and we are able to control that. All right, so there are two sphincters here. Remember, sphincter meant a circular band of muscles. Okay, the involuntary one is having smooth muscles. Okay, that is the internal sphincter, and the external sphincter is voluntary, and that's having the skeletal muscles present there. All right, so that was all about the urethra. Remember, I told you that urethra in males it was of around 20 centimeters, and in females it was around 4 centimeters. Okay, so when we see here, the functions also would be different. In males, because it is going to be passing through that male copulatory organ, it has to do two functions. In males, the urethra is going to not only be carrying urine, but that urethra is also going to be carrying semen. What is semen? The genital fluid, the fluid which is carrying sperms. So in males, urethra carries semen and urine, and because it is carrying genital fluid also, it's carrying urine also, that's why it's called as a urinogenital duct. What is it called as? It's called as a urinogenital duct. That is for males. But when we come to females, then the urethra has basically only one function, and that one function is of carrying urine and urine only. All right, so that's what we studied all about the urethra. So basically the whole excretory system, the different functions, the different organs that we learnt about. Do you remember the different organs of the excretory system? We learnt about the kidneys. Okay, there was a pair of kidneys. Okay, then after that we saw that there is a pair of ureters. Okay, do you remember the name of that upper dilated part of the ureters? It was called as renal pelvis. Okay, it was called as renal pelvis. After this enters into the one median urinary bladder. Okay, after the urinary bladder, taking that urine whichever has been formed to the outside, that process is being done by one single urethra. Okay, remember this urethra is different in the length for males. Males, can we write this sign over here, males, and for females I'll denote it by this sign here, female. In males it is around 20 centimeters and in females it is around 4 centimeters. All right, so that's it with the first part of our human excretory system, where we have labeled and we have described the important organs. Tomorrow I'll take you in the next lecture rather, I'll take you to a deeper insight, where we're going to be studying about the internal structure of the kidney. What exactly, if we take a cut section of the kidney, what exactly is the kidney made up of? Okay, so stay tuned with me and do log in day after tomorrow for the further session of our chapter of human excretory system. Stay tuned and take care. Bye.